Welcome back to another Policing Insight podcast and interview. Today I'm absolutely delighted to be with Superintendent Marcus Noden from Greater Manchester Police.
And I was actually presenting to a group of about 40 actually, a group of student officers yesterday at the University of Salford who have collaboration with Greater Manchester Police as part of the student process, and I was speaking to many of them, and it's exactly that. It's conversation, it's interest, and it's the sharing of views. And the reality is, there's a new generation of student officers that it's a bit like speaking to my two sons. We speak the same language, but we probably don't understand each other most of the time. And we had that conversation yesterday as a group, and it was really interesting to hear some of their ideas. But it boils back to the interest of the bosses, as it was put yesterday, the interest of the sergeants and the support of the sergeants. And I think if we can manage that at a local level, then it goes a long way to student officer retention, student officer progression, and also that's the whole sense of well-being by with our colleagues as well, which is vitally important.
That's just sparked something in my head there, Marcus. I wonder to what extent those 40 officers, each one of them has got a really good, concrete and compelling vision for what their future is going to look like. I don't mean like in 10 years' time, but a concrete and compelling vision, something that they're like certain is going to happen, and I want to work towards this thing that, like at year 3 or year 4. I wonder, how many of them have actually got that, and how to what extent are we deliberately helping them design their compelling future?
So that's actually, having a plan and having a vision for your own individual future is, I guess, it makes up part of the presentation that I gave yesterday. That's one of my top tips, actually. And it actually triggered a number of questions from the floor. And the impression I got was the majority don't really have a plan, and they're not quite sure. And so the conversation then led to, well, actually, what is it you want? It doesn't have to be going up the promotion ladder. It could be specialising. You might want to work with a dog for the rest of your career. You might want to helicopters. You might want to be a top detective. Whatever it may be, it doesn't really matter. The question is, how are you going to get there? And what path are you going to follow, and what do you need to do, and what areas do you need to cover in order to be able to progress to the next stage? And the impression I got, and clearly there will have been some in the room will have a fixed idea of is exactly how they want their career to progress, and some of them may want to be a chief constable, some of them may want to work in major crime investigation, but the majority probably don't know right now, and I think that's really important. How that's instilled into the individual student officers, I'm not quite sure. I think it needs to be done at force level, but also very local level as well, starting with the student officer trainers, and then the tutors, and then the supervision, and nurturing that development and understanding as to their sort of career pathway. Because, I don't think many people are too clear right now, and I think it's very, certainly from my perspective, my experience, we have many student officers with 12, maybe 18 months service who, quite frankly, are questioning their purpose of being a police officer, why they joined the career, and the reason why they're questioning is because of the workloads that they're carrying, and they don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. They've had a lot of pressure around not only the degree work that they've been undertaking, they've got portfolios that they have to complete, and then they've got 30 plus crimes that they're having to investigate, along with the handovers that are coming in every morning. And it's a struggle, without doubt. And yes, I've been there, but right now I'm now trying to manage that. And I understand from an individual perspective why we do have retention issues in policing right now from a student officer perspective. I really do. And so it's for my job and the job of managers and leaders throughout to really try and encourage the fun bit almost, to instill that sense of purpose in policing, to maintain those individuals, to keep them as police officers and not venture off different career paths. And it's extremely costly. If we, even if we boil down to figures, to lose a student officer at 18 months, 2 years service is extremely costly for the service, the organisation, and we can't afford to do that. So something has to change, and certainly from a supervisory perspective, early reward and recognition really important, and then that development and nurturing and the encouragement of trying different things, trying new things, proactive policing, etc., just to instill that motivation and keep them confident and keep them focused. And then those individuals will start being able to develop their own plans over time, because they'll have a clearer sense of purpose and what they're there for.
Yeah, I'm just making notes here about what someone could do today around that. And actually, we may be designing something that could be implemented, if it's not being implemented at the moment, as we talk. Just interesting what you're saying about there, about a lot of officers with 18 months service just not having a vision, not having a clear sense of what the future looks like. And all it's going to take is for another organisation, perhaps in a related sector or not in a related sector, to put some fancy advert out there on LinkedIn or in some periodical, or one of their friends to talk to them about, hey, I'm doing this at the moment, and then suddenly we lose them.
Yeah.
And we talk about that great expense. I think there's a great expense in two different areas. One is the financial expense. I don't think any force, and if anyone's listening to this and they go, oh, we know what the number is and we worked it out, if anyone knows how much it costs when we actually see someone walking out the door at 3 years service, we think it's probably in the region of 250 to 300,000 pounds.
Wow.
That's how much it's cost to get there. Because it's not just the cost of salary, national insurance and pension contributions, it's everything else. Like, what's the cost of you, Marcus? And what's the purpose of you, if not to ensure that your officers are out there and your teams and support staff are out there doing the job? Like, is there any other purpose? I suppose, there's a wider debate there about the purpose of senior officers. I don't want to get into that one now, but having that vision, and how do we get there? And because if they've not got a strong, compelling vision for their future in the police service, I'm quite sure they'll go and find a strong, compelling vision elsewhere, and then we've lost them. So I wonder, I've not seen they have to complete a portfolio, don't they? Like a portfolio. It goes with this series of a student officer. I wonder if there's a chapter in there that says, this is my vision for my future.
You put me to the test now. I don't think there is. I'm pretty sure there isn't. But I'd certainly, it's a great idea, and actually it should be the first section. What they see their future career as a police officer being. Absolutely, because I don't think people do. As I said before, I don't think people do have that clarity of plan. I think policing's seen as a great opportunity in terms of job and early salary and stability, etc. But I'm not overly convinced that it's seen as a long-lasting career these days. Certainly for the younger elements, so the younger generation, and that's a shame because, as you've said, if you lose a police officer after 3, maybe 4 years, huge cost, yes. But actually, all that experience that they've gained is gone overnight, and we have to start all over again. We have to start from scratch, and that's a huge effort to try and start from scratch and regain what we've just lost. And if we're doing that time and time again, and we're looking at 25+% of student officers leaving the service across the country, it's frightening statistics, but it's actually frightening in terms of that experience and knowledge and know-how that's been built up, and ultimately it's the communities that we serve that suffer because we just don't have the experience to go out there and deal with the incidents and the demands that were placed on us.
Yeah, and I wonder also, like, when they go back into their community, whatever their community may mean for them, to what extent are they actually saying good things about their limited time in the police, or are they saying, actually, all the promotional videos, they're all great, blah, 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 but the reality was. And it might be completely different. So there's a financial cost and there's also the sort of reputational cost. Well, there's something that people can do, like, the very first chapter. I love that idea, like, this is my compelling vision for my future. Not just, I want to be a dog handler, or I love it on response, just one line, but something that has been discussed with them, like, this is my purpose, this is
Yeah.
my mission, this is what I joined for. And throughout my career, I'd like to focus on this, as well as all the other things that I have to do, and build up those skills in investigations and putting a file together and answering all sorts of different types of calls. But this is my compelling vision for the future, my concrete and compelling vision for my future. And I'm going to give myself permission to be able to change that.
Yeah, it has to be flexible and fluid. Of course it does. Yeah.
I remember years ago, before I went to, I know it sounds like, name dropping here, but I was in the Bermuda Police, and the first thing I thought I was going to do when I went there was join Marine Section. I thought that'd be awesome, be amazing. I ended up in Special Branch. Like, that was not my initial dream. And all the way through my career, I've given myself permission to alter that vision.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing that makes the difference, really, is like all the way through my career, I've had this compelling vision for what my future is going to look like. But no one really asked me about that. Like, I designed it myself. So if we could systematically do that and have that the first chapter in their portfolio or whatever it is that they have, this is my vision for my future, and make it 1 page long. So they've actually got to describe it, my purpose, my mission, my values, why this is important. So I'm just making it up as I go along.
No, and well, you've just mentioned actually values, and something as in terms of mentoring others, something I always advocate is individuals carrying out a values type exercise, and there are many available on the internet and things that you can do. But ultimately, it's about boiling down to just a number of words, 3-4 words that describe you best, and from there you can develop sentences or a short paragraph using those words to describe you as an individual, what makes you tick, what values you hold and are dear to you. That goes a long way in terms of an individual understanding themselves better, and that then goes a long way in terms of developing that plan for the future and how they want to navigate that plan through their careers. So you mentioned the values. I think it's really important, really important.
And that would help identify the sort of person that they are, that self-reflection in terms of, I'm just thinking about going all the way back to the thing that you're proud of, that individual that you caught in the act of committing a burglary. If you'd been teamed up with someone who, like, part of your values lead to you wanting to do that kind of thing, that might not be everyone's cup of tea. There might be someone else who, through that vision setting, that sense of purpose, their mission, their values, what they're good at, thinking, I don't want to be the person who does the rugby tackle, but what I'd really love to do is the analysis and the planning that leads up to that kind of operation. Like, we've got, there's all sorts of people, and this is something I've always thought about, reflected on in the police service, almost like an obsession of developing the things you're not good at. Like, the things I wasn't good at in the 20s, I'm still not good at now. And I never will be. Like, I remember having a chief inspector who wanted to get me to be more organised. And I'm not. I'm not very organised, never have been, never will be, and I'm still not. Like, that's just me.
Yeah.
He was trying to get me to develop something that was never going to happen, as opposed to, Brendan, the thing you're really good at is, let's do more of that. And that's what John O'Hare was good at doing. Like, he identified the things within me that I'm really good at, and like created the culture and the environment where I could thrive. And I'm just thinking about that, like, someone might be listening to this thinking, I'm never going to be the rugby tackling, proactive offender catching individual, but what I'd really love to do is be the brains behind that.
Definitely, absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, it wasn't even a question. That it was just like me just riffing.
It was just a thought, wasn't it? But I agree with your thought. Every cog has its place in the big wheel, and you're right. Okay, chasing after a burglar might not be everyone's cup of tea, but actually they might be brilliant in the back room with analysis, IT, or whatever, or planning, or whatever it may be. And we need to nurture those strengths and develop those strengths for the best of the wider service. That's my view, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. I suppose then one of the questions that I'm sure you ask, or if you don't, then questions you could ask is of the sergeants and inspectors, you know, tell me something that you've done that you're proud of in respect of developing someone's vision.
Mm.
You know, the power is always in the question, isn't it? Like, if the questions aren't being asked, the things don't get done.
Definitely, and that's actually something that's cropped up as part of some work my colleague and I here at Trafford have been doing around quality standards and behaviour, and working with each of the supervisory teams from across the district, uniform, detectives, etc., etc. And one of those questions is about actually, you know, from a standards and behaviour perspective, how do you instill pride not only in yourselves but actually in your teams, and what do you do to try and develop that pride and that passion for the policing within your teams? And it's interesting. You know, there's a number of different responses have cropped up, and I think there's been some learning from the conversations, two-way learning without doubt. But it's been an interesting exercise focusing in on just those three areas. Quality standards, behaviour, but in implementing and encouraging that sort of the pride aspect too, because it's really important. And actually, if you're proud to do something, then generally the quality is going to be better, your standards are going to be better, and you're going to behave well, aren't you?
Yeah. Goes back to that same question, doesn't it? Like the one I asked you at the very start of this, which is like, Marcus, can you tell me about something you've done that you're proud of?
Definitely.
And then add to it, can you tell me about something you've done that you're proud of in respect of developing the vision for someone's career? If you ask that question, you'll get an answer, won't you? If you don't ask that question, you won't get an answer.
Definitely.
Oh gosh, we could go off on so many different things. And I don't think it's about putting the world to rights. I just think it's just really interesting having these sort of conversations, because when ideas pop up like that, they only pop up as a result of these conversations. So I think creating the time for these conversations is awesome. And I think we're probably ready to wrap up.
Okay, good.
Unless there's anything else you can think of, Marcus, that you know, any message for future leaders. I think we've already covered a lot of ground there, haven't we? Like, you know, if they watch the replay of this, there's quite a few things that they could probably pick up, and, you know, ideas that they may have, and, you know, just get in touch with us as well if you think, like, I put that in place and it worked, or I put that in place and it didn't work, or based on this I had this really awesome idea. Well, the other thing I invite people to do is, like, get in touch if they've got something that they're particularly proud of that they'd like to discuss and they'd like to talk about. And I think that should be every officer.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, this is what I think. This is one of the one of the bits I like about being a superintendent is that whilst senior leadership, I've got I guess a strategic overview of district operating work, and I've got force involvement, I've got some national involvement, but I also have quite an impact and an influence and a fairly pretty much daily hands-on approach with frontline operational officers, and I can influence how they develop through the careers, how they develop through policing, and what occurs on the districts and how the leadership is done at a local level. That's what I enjoy about being at this rank and always have done. And as I suppose as I go through my career towards the latter stages of that career, I want to continue to encourage that, because the early talent identification, the mentorship and the development of young up-and-comings is so important. It's so important to the service, and you know, if pride can play a part in that, that's absolutely key.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So, Marcus, what we're talking about there is you're an enabler.
Well, I hope so. I'm trying to be.
Well, you know, there's no recipe to get it completely right. If there was, everyone would be doing it. But
yeah,
I think what you're talking about there is enabling people to be the best versions of themselves. Like, and I love that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Marcus, thank you so much for your time today. Very, very, very much appreciated. I know your time's really precious, so thank you again for that time. And for anyone who's watching this again, if you've got a proud moment you'd love to share, do get in touch, and we'd love to talk to you. We want to make this a theme in policing, because I think in policing there's too much focus on things that aren't going well, and there should be a bigger focus on things that are going well and celebrating those things. Even if it's not just, is it? It's like a memory you're always going to have. It's like my memory, like up there. It's on there in a little commendation. It's never going to go away. These are the things that we'll carry with us for the rest of our careers. Awesome to speak to you again,
Absolutely.
Marcus.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.